Alright, welcome to this graphics overview. So if you remember, if we had before math, there is basically an XY axis or a grid. And this is kind of the plane that you would basically be doing your drawing on. The x-axis goes left and right, and the y-axis goes up and down. If you start at the very center, that's called the origin. And if you move to basically to the right, that's the x-axis, and it increases. And if you move to the left, it decreases. And for the y-axis, if you go up, it's going to increase, and if you go down, it will decrease. And for every square, it's basically increase by 1 or decrease by 1. Now you can see we put some dots on the axis. Now if you go over to the red dot, you basically take 2 steps to the right and then 1 step up. So that point would be 2, 1, because it's 2 on the x-axis and 1 on the y-axis. Now if you go for the yellow dot, it's basically going to the left, so it's going to be -1, -2, -3 for the x-axis, and then down just 1, so -1 for the y-axis. So that point is going to be -3, -1. Now on the computer screen, the coordinates actually start at the very top of your screen. You can imagine this grid is your entire screen. And it starts off at 0, 0 in the top left, rather than in the middle being 0, 0. And in this case, x still starts at 0 and then increases as you go to the right, but y starts at 0 and then actually increases as you go down. So it's a little different than the original grid. Also, normally when we think of points on the grid, they're actually at the intersections here. So for the one at the top left, that would be 0, 0, and then we also have another one that would be moving over, but when we're actually drawing, we actually use pixels, and so we actually fill in whole points of light. So 0, 0 would be the one at the top left, and then we have 3, 2, and then 2, 3. So one of the ways you can actually draw on the screen is using point. It takes 2 parameters, the first one which is the x, and the second is the y, and this will actually draw a point on your screen. Now we won't be using point because points are actually really, really small and you can't even see them on your screen, or hardly see them on your screen. Kind of looks like a speck of dust. The next function you might think about would be a line. And basically for a line, you actually take 2 points. There's an x1 and y1 is the first point, and it will draw a line between that and the second point, which is x2 and y2. So let's look at an example for line where we have x1, y1 of 0 and 1, and then 3 and 4 for the second point. So on our grid, you can see the 0, 1 is going to be the red spot right there. So it's basically 0 on the x and 1 on the y. And then the other dot is basically the other side of the line, and that will actually be a 3 and a 4. And then it will actually draw complete, shading in all the graphics there between those 2 points. So next thing, it's a little more complex than a line, is a rectangle. A rectangle has an x and a y, and then you actually tell it how wide you want it, which is the width, and then how tall you want it, which is the height. So let's look at an example again. For this rect, we have 1, 1 for the x and the y, a width of 2, and a height of 4. So this is what it would draw. Now for the point, for a rectangle, it's going to be the top left of the rectangle. The x and y, in this case is 1, 1, is always going to be the top left. Then we have it basically be 2 wide, so you can see that it will draw 2 pixels in this case. And then for the height, we actually have 4. And then it will fill out your entire rectangle. Next one we will actually use will be ellipse. And this also has an x and a y, and a width and a height. So again, let's look at an example. So this ellipse is a 3, 3, 5, 5. So 3 is the x, 3 is the y, and the width of 5 and height of 5. So this is what I would draw. Again, for the x and the y, in this case, the ellipse, that actually means it's the very center of the circle or center of the oval. So you can see the 3, 3 is highlighted in the strong red. Next, it basically says we want it 5 wide, and that would be the width, and then 5 high, that would be the height. And then it would actually fill in the rest of the points for you all around for that width and height to basically match an oval or a circle. So that has been a basic graphics overview.